So this is the best of the best of what they get in the Kingman mine direct. And the piece, I just went with this shape because this was kind of what good material came out of it, trying to cut as little as possible. And it was kind of thin. So I put a backing on the back. If you're not familiar with backing, I think I've got a little information on the backing on the blog. You go to radicalrocksusa.blogspot.com, and I've got an article on there on lapidary shop supplies, and also I've got a podcast, or podcast on that, just audio, on Anchor. And the link, you can find the link at the blog for the podcast and everything else, our social media and everything else. And it talks about backing materials. So there's different materials you can use, and this makes it thicker and gives it some strength and a nice solid bed on the back so that you have more depth and the cab can be higher when you're setting it in the silver. So that's the purpose of that. And I'm going to be attempting to set this in sterling silver with some gallery wire around the outside edge. I tried to do it earlier in the week, and gallery wire is a tough bird to work with, at least for me. It tends to want to melt. So what I'm thinking is, typically what I do is I do the outside edge in the gallery wire, and then I shape that around here. And then I, try to solder the gallery wire or the bezel material that goes around the outside edge. I try to solder that to the sterling silver plate. So this time, and then I do that separate. So I'll use like some hard silver on the actual gallery wire bezel to make the bezel piece, and then I'll use like medium to solder the bezel to the actual sterling silver. So you'll see how that all works if you're not familiar with that. But this time I'm going to try to do this plate and the gallery wire at the same time. I'm thinking it might work out better that way because the gallery wire tends to melt. So we'll just clip through the pieces and try to show you the highlights so you don't have to watch hours and hours of this. We'll clip it together for you so that it's a good use of your time. So here we have, this is the gallery wire that we're using. I'll try to get that up close so you can see it. Let me see if that's working here. Okay, my shadow's in the way, sorry. So there it is. There's the gallery wire. We're going to use this plate silver right here. It's pretty thick stuff. I like it solid. This isn't like little 26 gauge here. I think this is quite a bit thicker. I'm not sure, I'd have to look. But so the gallery wire, if you have never done this before, you just shape it around the stone. Pretty basic right here. And you try not to waste any material. Form it around the best you can, and figure out where to cut it. And you can mark it with something to scribe the mark. You could use just about anything. You could use a felt pen or whatever you want. I'm going to mark it right about here on the middle of this one. Okay, so now I can cut it right there and file it smooth. And this I can put, figure out where I want to cut this. Try to make the best use of your silver as you can. You got to have enough room for the bezel. And that looks like it's not going to quite work like that. So let's see. We could do something like this maybe. That might work. So let's try that. Right there. And again, you can scribe this, or you can use a felt pen. So you can do it like that. Try not to mark up your stone. You don't want to get that ink on here. But you can also use something sharp and make a nice little mark here. And make the most of your silver. Okay, so I'd have to cut on the outside of the scribe mark because the plate, the bezel's got to sit on this side of the scribe around it like this. So I will set all that up and cut that. I just cut this, you can cut this with some little shears and around about close. It doesn't have to be perfect because we can always trim it afterwards, and we will get back at that part. Alright, so you can see I have trimmed the piece. Here the gallery wire is looking pretty well formed. I just made it where this will drop right in there. It's pretty close. I'll check it again. Also the silver, it has been cut. It was a little bit bigger than the etched mark so that I have room for the gallery wire. And then I use this little hammer right here with a flat face on it. I think it's called a planish hammer, or anyway, this flat tip right here. And then you just tap the metal like this, and till you get it kind of nice and straight. And it's pretty easy to see that it's straight, because if this is sitting good, you can set it up and look at the edge. It should be sitting flat on this piece. Make sure you got a good angle of that, sitting nice and flat there on there. But I am going to put it in the pickle pot here, and this is got this from Johnson Brothers here. We're not sponsored by them or anything, but this will make a quart. I'm only using a cup, so it's not going to take very much. The water's got to be about 125 degrees. You can buy a little tiny crock pot here. Usually works pretty good. I'll pour some in there and mix that up with something. And this will clean the silver really good so that we can use it. Now usually you pull this stuff back out of the pickle pot with copper tongs. I have not found them. I've got them kind of packed away, but you can make a pair of copper tongs out of just some thick copper wire that you buy at the hardware store. You just bend it, pound the ends kind of flat so that you have something like this kind of shape right here, and you just reach in there and get those out really nicely. This is prepping the silver for the solder work that we will do next. We'll fit it up one more time, and then we'll be ready for brazing. Alright, so we've got it out of the pickle pot. It's dried. I'm just applying some silver brazing flux and to the plate metal that has been pickled, which the pickle cleans it and prepares it for the soldering process. You don't need a lot of flux on this. I just do the bottom and the top, and make sure that there's a little layer of this. I've already fitted this to the stone. I'm pretty confident that it's real close. If it's not perfect, you know, I may have to touch the stone up a little bit, but this is the procedure that I'm going for today. So I will prepare the silver solder for this, and I will get this level. I see that that's a little bit crooked right there, but I'll get that straightened up. We'll get it all prepped up, and then we will solder. I'm going to use the flat hard solder flux. You may have seen it in wire. I do have the wire, but I kind of, for some projects, I like it. There's the medium, and then here's the soft or easy. So I kind of prefer for certain projects to use this. I cut it up in little pieces, and I've got a few little pieces cut up right here. I will place those strategically so that I can do the soldering, and we'll get to that part next. All right, so we have the piece fitted. We have the hard solder, the stick solder, not the medium, but the hard. We've placed several pieces of the solder around the inside of the bezel. There should be ample. You just drop them approximately where you need them, and hopefully, sounds kind of big right there, but I'll put that one maybe right there. And then it helps to have something to, you know, kind of manipulate the little pieces of solder where you want, approximately. And then so that when you solder, they all go where they need to go. So we've done that process pretty much. That should be more than enough. We'll get this out of the way. Now, what I've chosen to use for soldering today is, if I can see this screen, that you can see that tank down there. Those are M tanks, oxygen on the right there and acetylene on the left. The oxygen is probably set no higher than 20 pounds, and the acetylene, I usually don't set that any higher than 5 pounds. Okay. And this is a little micro torch that you put on the existing regulators, pressure regulators. So you will need to have the pressure regulator kit, and then you buy this separate, and you have a handy little torch for doing your silver brazing. So let's see how this goes, and hopefully it'll go smooth and we'll have success, because I've been having a tough time with this piece right here. As I explained, the gallery wire can be a real booger. Let's see, I thought I turned them on. Let's see. Everything's on, everything's good. There we go. Got a little torch here, a little bit of acetylene, a little bit of oxygen. And that's probably about all we need right there. So let's start heating it and see what happens here. It is kind of windy today, so that will be a little bit of a challenge. And again, this gallery wire, man, it's touchy, so I'm hoping to have success here. That wind is not helping me. It just started kicking up. That is not helping me. I need to get a little bit more flame here. All right, here we go. All right, that's looking a little better. Let's try and get this thing going. I also folded over a little piece of solder on top of the where the bezel comes together there. So hopefully that will just automatically kind of melt. And okay, there we go. See that flow? That's what we're looking for right there. We're just going to follow it around and continue on with this and hope. Oh, it's looking good. It's looking good. I'm really liking this. A little bit more flow in there. Okay, we'll come around this side. Getting pretty good flow here. Oops, I don't want to get that. Oh, see the gallery wire started to bend. Dang, the wind is blowing my flame that way. Look at that. It's bending it. Oh my God. Such a nightmare this can be. Okay. Wind has died down again. Man, almost ruined me. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to cool it down and see how we're doing here, because I just want to be so careful with this thing. I've had so much problems with this gallery wire. Man, just doesn't want to. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that. Whew. All right, so that was a close call right there. I will cool that down, and we will look and see how good it is. All right, guys. I went ahead and did it over again because one of the gallery wires, I've had a really hard time with this. One of the gallery wires, this is the one I did before, it melted right there. There's supposed to be a little ball there. This one's there and it's half melted too. So I've had a really hard time doing these, so the bigger ones especially, so I thought if I soldered it all at once that would work, but it did not work. And I was very careful. So what I did was I redid it again, and I did it with medium soldering solder. And it looks like it's sealed really good. I see all tight spots and everything. And after that, you can just trim these edges like this very carefully, and so you have a little less of the filing to do. And some of this I might be able to reuse again, so I'll try and salvage what I can. Usually cutting this way is the best, but you know, that might make for that little corner piece of silver there. I might be able to use that for an earring or who knows what. So at this point, what I will do is I will sand down all the edges around here and make them flush with a small file. I'll do it all by hand. It's going to take a long time. And then I will clean this up and put it in the pickle pot, and then I'll get ready to make the bale. So as far as the way the stone fits, I'm not going to crush it all the way in there just yet, but it looks like it's going to fit pretty good. I may need to tune it up a tiny bit. The stone still hasn't had its last polish, because I was going to polish it all in one place. So yeah, I might just smooth this off a little bit more here on the corner, and then it should fit pretty good. I think, actually it looks like it fits pretty good. By the way, also, I don't have one here, but get a dental pick. This is one you get at a Home Depot, but dental picks you can get at Harbor Freight or online at Amazon. They're even finer. And that's a good way of, you know, getting your stone back out. Just be careful not to chip it, but you can, you know, pry your stone back out that way when you're fitting your finding. Okay. Right, so the sanding's going well. Still got a ways to go. You can see the edge right there. The goal is to get that flush without dinging the gallery wire, and so you just want to position your file like this and work little areas at a time, kind of evenly. And you can do long ways like this, and it's a very slow process, but it does happen after time. So I will continue to file this, and when it's just about done, I will get back and we will look at the bezel and how we're going to get a bezel on there, see what we have in my stock, and if I want to just create one or use an existing bezel that I have, and see if we can wrap this project up today or not. So, and every once in a while you just kind of can go around here and kind of file off the little burr on the end. So, okay. Also, you'd want to stamp your, if you have a stamp, you can stamp it before you get much further, or it's going to be really hard. I would just put this on a dowel or something. I mean, you can actually stamp it before you do the soldering, but you can put it on a dowel and put in your stamp mark at that time. I don't know if I'll find my stamp or not. If I do, I might stamp it. Alright, so we've made the bezel. It's all done. The next part is you can get some of this silver here. It's called a double half round. You can see that it is, it looks like the half of a circle and double, so it's called double half round. And you just take a piece of this and twirl it around something. I twirled this one around a, I think a soldering brush or something. What did I twirl that around? Yeah, I twirled it around this soldering brush right here and just pushed on it, and cut it. So now what I will do is I will file this and on the end flatten this side down, and then I will silver solder this all together on the top with probably easy solder so that I don't unmelt the bezel around the outside edge. So you can see I've got it all sanded and everything's pretty. So that'll be the next step. I'll put this in the pickle pot, get it clean, sand this, have it ready, and then we'll solder that on there and move on from there. Alright, one thing I forgot to mention is I'm going to cut this in the middle with the jeweler's saw right here, and cut this in the middle so when I solder this to the back I can spread these two pieces apart and it'll look better and it'll hold it straighter on the chain. So I'm just going to cut through right through the middle here, little by little, until I get all the way through. And if it gets too hot, I'll just cool it down with a little bit of water or whatnot. But this is your typical jeweler's saw with a little blade right here. It doesn't feel like a blade, but it's kind of like a file almost, the way it cuts in there. And it doesn't take, forever, but it does take some time. See if I can get it started for those who've never used a jeweler's saw. And it's great to do this over a desk. Right now I'm not set up for that, but that's because we're probably going to be moving maybe in the next few months. We'll see what happens. But usually you let all that dust get caught on a table or whatever, and you sweep those silver pieces. You can see I'm almost all the way through now. The saw blade is actually already started to cut through. So once I'm done cutting it, I'll break out everything, have it ready to solder. I'll spread these apart just with a couple of pliers, pull them apart gradually, get them a little bit spread. I can always adjust it after it's soldered a little better, but I'll get it started, and we'll pick back up at that point. Alright, so I've cut all the way through the bale that we're making with the saw, right all the way to here, almost to the end of this piece and to the beginning of this, right through there. So it's looking pretty good. I think what I'm going to do, I've got this out of the pickle pot, the silver. The pickle pot didn't really get hot, so I went ahead and hit it with some sandpaper right there. And I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'll solder it right there. But just so you kind of get, let's see, so you can take and hold this like about right here. Hopefully this will work. Hopefully I won't look too amateur here, but you should be able to take, oops, I just scratched it, so I'll have to buff that out, and try to bend them a little bit. So it's not bending too easy. I may wait until I get it. Here we go. This idea is working right here. Here we go. So I'm in the middle now. Just squeeze these little cheapo bead pliers, and they seem to be doing the trick. So I want it to be pretty even. I'm just squeezing it like this, and then getting it in here and doing a little bit of a bend like so. Okay, that's enough to get me started. I can bend it a little bit more once I heat it up, and I think that'll be good. So that's our start. I'll get some solder and some flux ready over there, and then we'll take a look at that. Alright, so let's see if we can zoom in a little bit here. There we go. So I got everything sitting in place here, and we're going to get ready to solder. And so I've put a little bit of flux here. I just used a little stick, put it on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and use easy because I had such a hard time getting the bezel on there. I'm going to go ahead and use this easy solder there so I don't unheat anything else. I'm going to use a little micro torch with a oxyacetylene mix, and like I said, the solder, the easy solder already cut, and there's a little tiny dab of it right there, that little piece right there, if you can see that. And I don't see my striker, so I'm just going to wing it with a little, hopefully it works. Let's see, hopefully I didn't run out of gas here. I don't think so. But just not on. There we go. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can burn our hands off. Ooh, that's way too high. You can see a little guy puts out quite a flame. Oop. Oxygen's a little touchy. There we go. Good little flame there. There we go. I'll just heat it up with some good circles. Hopefully you saw that. Let's see, is it in the camera? I guess it's not. But anyway, there it is. It's lit. And we will, hopefully nothing will move too much here. We'll heat it up slowly. I'm going to try to get a little more heat on the bezel for starters. And it's starting to melt. And not quite the way I'd like to see it. I think I'm going to have to put some more solder on. It doesn't look like it's really flowing where I wanted it to flow. That's okay. We will get a little more. We'll just turn this off for a second. I'll clip another little piece and try again. At least that piece is tinned now, so there's a little piece right there. Okay. Light up the torch tip again. There we go. Try to get the plate to heat up. That's looking a little better. Now we've got a good flow. We can get it up onto here. And that is looking good right there. I like that. Okay. It's looking pretty good. We'll cool it off and clean it up, and then we'll start fitting the stone. All right. We've put a little bit of a shine on it and polished it up a little bit to just get most of the stuff off of it. We'll polish it more later. But I just used the, it's called ZAM, and you just get it spinning, dig it in there, put a little on there, and then rub it off, and it'll give your silver a good polish. Then the next thing I do is any rough spots, I hit them with a sandpaper, either a 600 or 400, and try to get those spots off. And then clean it real good. You can use a little bit of acetone, or even just use alcohol is fine too. Clean this off inside, get it very, very clean. I've already fit test the stone. Fits in there very well, and when you want to take it back out, you can get these little dental tools at Harbor Freight, very cheap, and you can just slowly pick the stone back out once you have it in there. Now, one of the things I like to do on every stone, no matter how well the fit, but this one probably even a little more so because it's going to be a high stone, is I use the epoxy 220, and I have a blog at radicalrocksusa.blogspot.org about all the supplies that you can buy for your lapidary shop. There's a whole list there of great items to have. You can see I've used this plastic. It doesn't take much. That's probably more than enough. Another little trick I learned is you just take a little piece of plastic and put on top of your lids. This works for a lot of things. Actually works good for glue. I do it on glue. I just put plastic in there and always clean the tip out on a glue dispenser. But even on these epoxies, it works well to just take some little piece of plastic and stick in there to kind of help preserve it. You put the equal amounts of the hardener and the epoxy in here, and just use something disposable. I use just a little tab of cardboard that I cut, and just mix these up like so. Ready to go. Okay, you do not want to get this on the top of your stone, so make sure that there's none on your hand when you touch the stone. This also makes a good bed to level out the stone so that it sits flat and doesn't rock. But as you remember, we put a base on this, so just pop this in here, and that is it for that part. Okay. Immediately, I can go ahead and use a tool here, this brandishing tool, to curve some of the metal over onto the stone. You want to be careful depending on what kind of stone you're using, but this is the gallery wire, and getting a little bit of a curve to it around the stone will definitely help hold it in a little bit. You can see it's already starting to just move around the curvature of the stone a little bit to help hold it in there. So between the epoxy and the curvature of the gallery wire here, it should hold it very nicely, and we shouldn't have any problems with that. So that's about that. Now what I'll do next is I'll go ahead and clean it up some more, and then use a ZAM polishing on the Dremel. In fact, we just might as well try to do it now. Typically take this wheel off here, put on this one. Sounds like my kids are headed this way. I will have to get some water. I don't have water, so we'll get some water and come back. So got the Dremel with a buffing wheel here. Got some of the sapphire powder, which is real good. You can get it at Johnson Brothers Lapidary. Again, I've got a link to their website, I believe, on our blog. Just get the wheel wet on your Dremel or your pad, and just kind of get it in there. This stuff is a little expensive. Make sure you're wearing some eye protection, and a lot of it's going to fly off, but it is what it is. And you can put a little bit on the stone if you want, and then go to some polishing. Do not drop the stone. I would recommend polishing away from the edge of the silver so it doesn't catch it and throw the stone out of your hand. Don't breathe the dust. You see it's starting to get a real nice polish on that. stuff works really good on turquoise. Touch up the silver a little bit, just don't lose your stone or you'll be saying some bad words. Concentrate on the actual turquoise. Okay, pretty happy with that. You can wipe off with a silver, with a jewelry cloth, siliconized chamois here. Kind of get it nice and shiny and pretty. And I'll keep working with it. I've filed already some of the edges inside this bezel, but it could use more work. I'll go back over it and do it again, but for right now, we're looking pretty good. Got a nice shine on it. I'm just going to use this sterling silver chain here. I've made it kind of long. I can always cut it short. And, you know, that should be a pretty nice look to it there. I'm just going to add a nice little lobster claw with a jump ring and put on there. If you don't know about jump rings, they're just a metal, you know, sterling silver loop that has been made. It has a break in it, and to separate those, I don't know if I'm going to do it right here, right now, but because my eyes are so bad, I can't hardly see it in this light. The light's not that great in here, but typically you find the break wherever it is, and you just pull it one way and the other way, which I cannot see where it's at right now. So maybe that's it right there. I think that's it. You can use it. Sometimes you can do it with your hand even. So I can't see it. I thought it was right there, but it's not. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna complete this project. Put the chain on it. The silver's been done. You've been walked through pretty much the whole process. You can always spend more time on them, that's for sure. Also, little bits of sandpaper can be used to get in here and clean this up. I will do that. I'll spend more time on that and polish that out a little bit and then go back over it. You don't really want to get the zam on the stone. It won't kill it, but I like to finish the polish with the sapphire polish. You can also use tin oxide if you want. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Be sure and look up all our links, our Facebook, social media on radicalrocksusa.blogspot.com. And remember, rockhounds don't die, they petrify.